Welcome and thanks for joining us. My guest today is YVES MASSARD, Product Marketing Director for Identity and Access Management Solutions at HID Global. YVES, welcome to the show. We're glad to have you here on our discussion of cybersecurity and risk management and identity and access management. In fact, let's talk. One of the things I always heard about is there's certain things that are certain in this world, and that's death and taxes. But I think you could add government regulation mandates to that category as well for number 3. And let's talk about the government mandates in terms of cybersecurity compliance. What do you see out there?
Yeah, absolutely. So we're seeing more and more government mandates in that area. Cybersecurity risk is an area that's becoming more and more forefront. It's been there at the federal level, and it's becoming more and more prevalent also at the state level. And we're seeing a lot of mandates that are being applied in different sectors. So it's not one size fits all, but what we're seeing is more at the sector area. So for example, if your government organization is working with the IRS, you might have to comply with IRS PUP 1075 if you're getting taxpayer information. If you're getting access to a criminal background check from the FBI, you will fall under the CGIS. If you're prescribing controlled substances in New York State, you might have to use digital certificates in order to be able to prescribe and then fulfill that prescription if it's done digitally. So there's lots and lots of different mandates that are coming from different areas. They all have a lot of things in common, but they all have also specificities to each of their different sectors.
And it's certainly true that it's not only the federal government, the state government gets involved in that, everything from elections to the opioid issue.
Yeah, absolutely. So on the election area, as you know, it's something that's very distributed from the federal to the state to the county level. And you have the federal level that's providing grants, the HAVA grants that help election organization to be able to shore up their cybersecurity defenses.
Mm-hmm. Let's shift a little bit and talk about identity and access management, because it's such a big issue. And when we've talked to you folks from HID Global before, I always recollect my early days as a CIO in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. And the biggest problem we had with this kind of thing involved some of our employees looking up the professional athletes' tax returns. Things have changed a lot. That still happens, but not as much. But certainly the threats are a lot greater. Tell us about the entire landscape of where identity access management has evolved over the last few years.
Yeah, so if you go back, you might have had some security measure, but a lot of it was around username password. Nowadays, it's all about multi-factor authentication and zero trust, being able to make sure that the right person has access to the information or the application and not somebody else. And you're seeing a lot of new technology, standard and best practice that are starting to be adopted. Zero trust is one of those where really it's all about making sure that you always make sure that it's the right person that's accessing the application. And part of making sure that you can do that is being able to have a secure identity, so you know it's the right person and not somebody else that just gets the password from a trove of password that was found on the internet.
You know, identity access management seems to always begin within a particular department, but it has to evolve. There's more complications as you spread it around, having interagency access as well. Talk about that challenge.
Yeah, so that's something that's really also dependent on the organization at the state and local level. You're right that quite often, there might be a specific department that may have a stronger mandate or might be earlier than their colleagues in adopting stronger security. But at some point, in today's connected world, the organization needs to work with each other, and then the question becomes, how do they know that an employee or a contractor from a different organization is the right person? And there's not one size fits all. Different states have different ways to approach that. Some states look at it from a centralized standpoint, where they might set up a shared service provider that will essentially be the federation for the whole states. Other states prefer to go maybe more decentralized and in which case, there are also technology that lets you provide a secure identity that can be verified across different organizations with things like, for example, digital certificates, where even if you didn't provide that secure credential to that person that's coming to your application, you have a way to verify that it's the right person, making sure that that person is who you think you are, and then you can grant them access per your policies.
And certainly with the advent of mobile devices, it's added an extra layer of complexity to this whole issue as well. How are you addressing that?
Yeah, so I think what's really important is really looking at your application, what is it that your user wants to do and how they're going to access that. Because depending on, because there's many different options that are actually available out there in terms of technology and how you plug into that. So it's really important to take a survey of the land, see what you need, and from there you are able to find a solution that works for your users. It might not be one size fits all. You might have a pocket of users that needs some kind of type of security, while another pocket of users might need something a little bit different. And so the industry provides you different ways to tackle that problem depending on what's more appropriate for your population of users.
And certainly we're going to talk a little bit more about telework, but it certainly certainly at this point in time with the coronavirus, it certainly is the forefront. It's ripped from the front page headlines, right, about the issue of telework. And as I've always said over the years, and I've been saying this since I was a CIO back in the mid-90s, and we were talking about continuity of operations, et cetera, et cetera. And I talked to my colleagues, my fellow CIOs, and I'd say, if your governor came in tomorrow and said that the employees couldn't come down to the main campus of the Capitol, are we prepared to be able to work, to continue operations or not? And I want to tell you, I didn't get some real good answers to that, and I still don't. We're going to take a little break right now. My guest today is YVES MASSARD, Product Marketing Director for Identity Access Management Solutions at HID Global. I'm your moderator, John Thomas Flynn, on the discussion of cybersecurity, compliance, and risk management, sponsored by HID Global on Federal News Network.